All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this, you already know it's been one of the most turbulent, dramatic and frankly exhausting weeks in recent Chelsea history. We've got injury bombshells, a crucial Brighton midweek clash, the Rosenior pressure cooker reaching boiling point, a monster FA Cup semi-final on the horizon against Leeds at Wembley. And let's not forget the summer transfer window is already casting a massive shadow over everything happening on the pitch right now. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable and let's break it all down. This is your complete Chelsea team news update for April 2026. I'm going through everything. Injuries, form, the manager situation, the league table crisis and what's coming up this week. Let's get into it. So let's start with the cold, hard reality of where Chelsea are right now in the Premier League. After Saturday's 1-0 defeat to Manchester United at Stamford Bridge, and yes, we'll get into that in a moment, Chelsea sit 6th in the Premier League table, 6th, with 6 games remaining in the season. Now, here's why that's so critical. 6th place means we are currently on the wrong side of the Champions League qualification line. Top 5 get into the Champions League, and right now Chelsea are one spot outside of that. And if Liverpool beat Everton in the Merseyside derby on Sunday, Chelsea could find themselves 7 points behind 5th place. 7 points with 6 games to go. That's an incredibly steep climb. The context here matters too. Liam Rosenior was appointed in January, and early on he had Chelsea sitting as high as 4th under his management. He was actually quite proud to point that out before the Manchester City game a few weeks ago. But since that City defeat, a 3-goal home hammering, by the way, Chelsea have slid to 9th in the table across those 11 games, under Rosenior specifically. That's not a statistic he can spin positively. What's made it worse is the run of form. Chelsea have won just one of their last 7 Premier League games. That's a truly awful return. And they've now suffered 4 consecutive Premier League defeats without scoring in 3 of them. For a squad with this much attacking talent, that is almost unbelievable. Now, to give Rosenior some credit, and I will because it's important to be fair, he inherited a squad mid-season that had been run into the ground. Chelsea have played more games than any other Premier League side across the last 2 seasons. The Club World Cup last summer, the Champions League campaign, the Carabao Cup run. It's all piled up. These players are exhausted. And Rosenior is also managing a squad he didn't build. Full of young players still finding their feet. But fans are running out of patience. We'll talk about the Rosenior situation in more detail later. First, the match that's got everyone talking. Saturday, April 19th, Manchester United came to Stamford Bridge under Michael Carrick's management and they left with a 1-0 win. A crucial one at that for both clubs. The goal itself was a moment that immediately sparked controversy inside the Chelsea camp. Cole Palmer, our most creative player, our talisman, our best performer on the pitch in a struggling team, was caught on camera blaming a teammate for the mistake that led to the goal. And who was in his sights? Alejandro Garnacho. Palmer reportedly pointed the finger at Garnacho for switching off at a crucial moment, allowing United to score. Now, this isn't actually the first time Palmer has had words for a teammate in this way, but the fact that it's Garnacho is particularly interesting given the transfer speculation swirling around him. Garnacho has already scrubbed all Chelsea-related content from his TikTok, which in 2026 is basically the modern equivalent of handing in a transfer request. Make of that what you will. The defeat itself was hard to watch. Chelsea had chances. Estevao hit the post before going off injured, which we'll get to. But once again, the lack of clinical finishing and the familiar defensive fragility cost them. The atmosphere at the bridge after the final whistle, not good. Rosenior was reportedly given a brutal reception by fans, some calling for his dismissal on the spot. Joe Cole spoke after the game and issued a pretty stark warning to the Chelsea hierarchy. Without putting words in his mouth, the message was essentially, things need to change and those at the top need to be accountable. Glenn Hoddle, on the other hand, went slightly against the grain and suggested Chelsea would keep Rosenior for next season, arguing that sacking him now would be an overreaction. given the circumstances. He might be right, but that depends entirely on what happens in the next few weeks, specifically in the league and in that FA Cup semi-final. Okay, let's go through the injury situation, because this is where it gets really detailed and where Chelsea fans need to pay close attention heading into what is an absolutely pivotal week. Estevao. The one that hurts the most, both figuratively and literally for the kid himself, is Estevao Willian. The 18-year-old Brazilian winger pulled up chasing a long ball in the second half against United and was in tears at half-time. The images of him crying in the tunnel were heartbreaking to see. Now Rosenior confirmed in his Monday press conference, Estevao is definitely out for Brighton. We'll do further investigation into his injury. The initial fear was that this could be a season-ending injury. And given that the FIFA World Cup is this summer, the stakes couldn't be higher for Estevao personally. Missing the World Cup at 18 years old after the season he's been having would be devastating. However, there is some more positive news emerging. Reports from Brazil via Globo suggest the hamstring issue is not as severe as first feared. The expectation from those close to the player is that he'll miss around 15 to 20 days. That would technically bring him back just before the end of the Premier League season and potentially in time for a FA Cup final if Chelsea get there. But Rosenior is being cautious, and rightly so. There's no point rushing him back. The investigation continues. Enzo Fernandez. There was genuine panic after Enzo Fernandez hobbled off late in the second half against United. He came on as a substitute but then asked to be replaced again, which is never a good sign. Rosenior said post-match, "I just saw him in the dressing room. I think it was his calf. I'm hoping it's cramp." The good news, and Chelsea fans badly needed some, is that reports from Argentina suggest it was fatigue rather than a structural injury. Enzo had been serving a 2-match suspension imposed by the club, and when he came back against United, he clearly wasn't fully up to match sharpness, but he should be available for Brighton, and we need him. With Estevao now out, Chelsea's creativity burden falls even more heavily on Palmer and Fernandez. He has to be fit for Tuesday. Reece James. The captain is absent again. Rosenior confirmed James hasn't recovered in time for the United match, and there's real uncertainty about whether he'll feature again this season. He's been making progress in training, but with only a handful of games left, every week feels like a countdown. His absence has been a running theme all season. He is genuinely missed as both a player and a leader. When Reece James is fit and playing, Chelsea look like a different team. Right now, he's a passenger, and it's heartbreaking for him and for the fans. Levi Colwill. Here's some slightly better news on the defensive front. Colwill has been out long-term with a knee injury, but he featured for 60 minutes in Chelsea's under-21s on Friday, and Rosenior has confirmed he'll play for them again this weekend to build up fitness. Rosenior was cautiously optimistic. Very hopefully, you can see him before the end of the season. He's not going to be match sharp, but having Colwill available for the run-in, especially if Chelsea make the FA Cup final, would be a significant boost. Jamie Gittens. Gittens hasn't played since January 31st. Rosenior has not given a firm return date, and with the season winding down, the question is whether we'll see him in Chelsea colours again this campaign. He's been a player who looked genuinely exciting in flashes, so hopefully he can come back strong for pre-season at the very least. João Pedro. The Brazilian striker, signed to add goals this season, is in a race against time for the Brighton game. Rosenior said on Monday, "João will be a late call. He was out on the pitch today. We'll make a final decision on him tomorrow morning." In other words, he trained lightly, but the decision will go down to the wire. Given his importance to Chelsea's attack with Estevao now out, let's hope he makes it. Right, let's have the conversation that everyone is having. Is Liam Rosenior the right man for Chelsea going forward? Let me give you both sides, because this debate deserves to be had properly. Rosenior only took over in January 2026. He replaced Enzo Maresca. Chelsea's fifth permanent coach since Blueco took over in 2022. The revolving door of managers is itself part of the problem, and sacking Rosenior now would be adding to that toxic culture of short-termism. He's 41 years old, extremely young for a Premier League head coach. He came in from Strasbourg, where he led them to European football for the first time in 19 years. He signed a contract through to 2032. The club clearly believed in a long-term project. He also, as he himself keeps pointing out, didn't sign most of these players. He didn't cause the fixture congestion. He didn't structure the team's recovery from the Club World Cup, and even Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, his words, needed time to sort things out at their clubs. 9 games into his tenure, Chelsea's results have gotten worse. The attacking football has looked disjointed. There's no clear identity. The team looks mentally fragile, conceding late goals, switching off at key moments, shipping 1-0 defeats they should be drawing or winning. Critically, Champions League football might be slipping away. Missing the top 5 would be a disaster commercially and competitively. The club needs CL revenue. Players like Cole Palmer have their ambitions. Without that, Chelsea's summer transfer activity will be severely hampered. And here's the brutal truth. If Chelsea fail to qualify for the Champions League and don't win the FA Cup, it becomes very difficult to argue that Rosenior has delivered enough to justify the faith placed in him. My take, I think the FA Cup is Rosenior's lifeline. Win it and he probably keeps his job regardless of the league finish. Lose in the semi-final and miss the Champions League, that's a sack. Simple as. The good news is the FA Cup is still very much alive when we're going to Wembley this Sunday. This is the big one. This Sunday, April 26th, 3 p.m. kickoff. At Wembley Stadium, Chelsea versus Leeds United in the FA Cup semi-final. Chelsea got here with a brilliant run of form in the Cup, even when the league was falling apart. They hammered Charlton 5-1 in the third round in Rosenior's first game. Beat Hull City, edged past Wrexham in extra time, and then absolutely demolished League One Port Vale 7-0 in the quarterfinals. That was a statement scoreline. Hato, João Pedro, Tosin, Andre Santos, Estevao, Garnacho all got on the score sheet. Absolutely brilliant. Leeds, meanwhile, reached the semis for the first time in 39 years. A massive moment for their supporters. Daniel Farke's side beat West Ham in a dramatic penalty shootout at the London Stadium. Pascal Struijk was the hero from the spot, and Leeds have been doing well in the Premier League too, recently beating Wolves 3-0 to edge towards safety. They'll arrive at Wembley with real confidence. The historical angle, this is a repeat of the 1970 FA Cup final, one of the most famous finals in football history. Chelsea won that one after a replay at Old Trafford, and in the most recent meeting in the Cup, just 2 years ago, Chelsea squeezed through 3-2 at the Bridge with a last-minute Conor Gallagher goal. For Chelsea, the FA Cup represents a chance to salvage a trophy from what has otherwise been a difficult season. This is potentially the most important game of the Rosenior era so far. The big concern is Estevao, almost certainly out. Reece James is out. Colwill is building fitness but not ready for this level yet. João Pedro's availability is unclear. If Enzo is fit, he starts. Cole Palmer will be central. Garnacho, controversy and all, is likely to feature, though his situation remains complicated. Rosenior will need to get his selection spot on. My personal hope that Chelsea go out with intensity, press Leeds from the front and ride the Wembley atmosphere to a final. Chelsea in a cup final would change the entire feel of the season. Even with games still to play, the summer window is already dominating conversation. Let's go through the key names. This is the transfer saga that could define Chelsea's summer. Fernandez signed for over £100 million from Benfica in January 2023, is now pushing to leave according to multiple reports. His current deal runs until 2032, but he's reportedly open to a move, and Chelsea are said to be ready to listen to offers if the right fee comes in. PSG have already made contact with his representatives. Real Madrid, under Xabi Alonso, are reportedly keen too. Initial figures suggest any buyer would need to meet or exceed the £75 million threshold to avoid Chelsea taking a massive loss on the record deal. If Fernandez goes, it's both a football problem and a statement about the club's direction. He's been one of their most consistent players this season. The TikTok situation speaks volumes. Garnacho only joined from Manchester United in the winter window with great fanfare, but it already feels like the relationship has soured. Between the Palmer confrontation and the social media activity, he may only be at the bridge for one window. Chelsea might actually be able to recoup most of what they paid given his profile and age. Some excellent news. Caicedo has agreed a new long-term contract extension with Chelsea. That's a major positive. He's been one of the club's most dependable midfielders, and keeping him tied down amid interest from Real Madrid, among others, is a real coup. Chelsea are reportedly among the clubs interested in Noah Siddiqui, a promising defensive talent who's emerging as one of the most sought-after young players in Europe. Manchester United are in the mix too. This would be the kind of forward-thinking, developmental signing that Chelsea's ownership loves. Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital are reportedly considering a different kind of transfer window this summer. Potentially more disciplined, less of the scattergun spending that characterised their early ownership years. Whether you believe, that depends on how much faith you have in the club's leadership right now. But if they're serious about backing Rosenior for the long term, smart, targeted investment is exactly what's needed. Let's close out with a look at what's coming and what Chelsea need to do. This Tuesday, April 22nd, Brighton away in the Premier League. A must-win if Chelsea have any hope of catching the top five. Brighton are strong at the Amex, but if Chelsea can't get a result there, the Champions League dream is basically over. Sunday, April 26th, FA Cup semi-final versus Leeds at Wembley. Possibly the most important game of the season, everything on the line. And then it's a sprint to the finish in the league, Nottingham Forest, and other games to come, where Chelsea need almost a perfect run to have any chance of breaking into the Champions League spots. Look, it's not been the season we wanted. The manager change in January disrupted things. The injuries have been relentless, and the results under Rosenior have not been good enough. But I still believe in this squad. I believe Cole Palmer can be the difference. I believe Enzo, if he stays, can drag this team forward. And I believe that a run to an FA Cup final would change the entire narrative of this season. So let's back the boys this week. Come on, you Blues. That is everything you need to know about Chelsea right now. If you found this useful, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't already and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you still backing Rosenior? Do you think Enzo stays or goes? And most importantly, can Chelsea beat Leeds at Wembley on Sunday?